Hello everybody. My name is Raymond Terhune. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. JSF Social. It's always fun to see some familiar and new faces. Um, I'll just be talking about a few case studies that I've been going through that's been happening in the transition between, doing a lot of stuff in person to moving to online. Here's just a little bit of my background. Right now, I am at the Public Relations Initiative at Kyushu University as a science communicator. Until last May, I was at Kyoto University's Office of Global Communication doing something very similar. And I'm going to be talking about the case study here because most today, because that's what I was doing. That's when COVID hit, essentially. I was there. Um, and my academic background is in developmental biology at Kyoto University and at Riken in Kobe. But my undergraduate background is just straight liberal arts college in Portland, Oregon. You're welcome to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I rarely post, but and it's usually about beer or video games. So not a lot of science communication stuff coming out of from me on my social media. Okay, so here's a couple. I'm gonna go through 3 case studies quickly today, just through experiences of how they transition from doing in person to online and some kind of setup that they went through. I'll go with Kyoto University first, and then to talk about Nite Kansai, and then the Fukuoka Engineer Cafe here locally. So up first, let's talk about case study number 1, Kyoto University. These are pictures I took of Kyoto University that's on the university official Instagram, which I also ran. Okay, so Kyoto University, in the context of what I did as a job, was mostly running, doing press conferences, helping out press conferences and writing press releases for, the recent research that came out from the university. And because of its nature of being Kyoto University, has a very busy press presence. It's very busy. And one of the reasons being is that, it is, a top level university, but the PR office, the office we were, is right across the hall from the press room, essentially, where the Kyoto University press corps, actually not corps, press club was. They, we had some of the major outlets, or reporters from the major outlets, just having desks there that would just do their work there and be ready and be essentially on call for anything that comes out of Kyoto University. And it also worked as a place where you would do press conferences for both Kyoto University, but also any kind of research-based press conference coming from any university within Kyoto City itself. So it's a very busy place. And in that sense, like even in a week, you can just easily go 5 press releases, all in Japanese, 5 press releases in a week. It could be more than that. There's times when it's just 3, but you can easily go 5. And due to that, there could be like up to 3 press conferences a week, even maybe more in some busy cases. A lot of times, sometimes February is kind of a peak time because of all the papers that are coming out at that time. So it could get really busy. And then and since the press conference happens right across the hall from us, it's easy to access. It's within the campus grounds. There's a lot of it going in and out of there. It's before COVID hit, is all in person. Now, but then when COVID hit, the press, essentially the entire campus, and which included the press room, ended up closing in the end of April, April 20th, 2020. I think that's when the Japanese government set up COVID guidelines, and the university ended up just following that to the letter immediately. And we knew that it was probably coming down and that we had to plan ahead. And just 2 days later, we had to move to an entirely online press conference setup. And actually, this picture that you see here is based on that press conference that was happening. It was about this new design of new take on a periodic table that the researchers were looking into. Thankfully, we were pretty adaptable initially, which is kind of surprising considering anybody who has worked in a Japanese university institution here. but we immediately moved to Zoom at that point because that was that seemed at that point it was a trend on what everybody was using, and it was easy to set up. We established an account immediately and sent in our press package, the link to that Zoom, that Zoom link to say access this at this time. So yeah, like I said, primarily using Zoom. Some institutions were using WebEx, like the IPS Cell Research Institute was using WebEx. But this essentially the setup was very much the same. The researcher will call from their office, usually, or in some cases, we would assist them and we can help them kind of with the setup. This is a picture of the press room, actually. A little look inside. It's absolutely hideous. It's very dirty. It's quite nuts, actually. But in the case of when the researchers would come to us, and we would assist them, we'd just do a simple setup like this. We'd have the moderator PC here. It would be like just my computer setting up as the host of the Zoom, and then the researcher here with their camera one and their presentation coming out, and then I would set up a second camera to get just a straight shot of the researcher. Thankfully, I think it was during the middle of 2020, Canon actually set up released a driver that you can use their cameras as a webcam. So I was able to use Zoom essentially with that, and this is expensive as DSLR camera that I was able to connect up to this. So it's really very good output, and plus you could swivel it around on the tripod and even zoom into the researcher. So it's absolutely lucked out a lot that Canon set up a driver that we could use it as a webcam during that time. It helped out a lot. Later into 2020 and into 2021, we kind of moved into hybrid models essentially, and these were essentially any kind of hybrid model you would get. We would still be on Zoom and in person like this, with speakers over on this side with the press corps. That's actually a NHK camera, I think. Setting up a press corps over here. However, the press room itself, that was across the hall from my office, was still closed officially. So the only one of the conditions that we had to give for any kind of press conference that would happen at the university is that it had to happen at a facility of that department that's doing it. So it had to be like a lecture hall or a press or a meeting room that could actually follow proper COVID protocols. And so long as they can set it up there, we would bring equipment to help out with the hybrid setup. So in a similar hybrid setup like this, thankfully, by that time, most departments had a nice conference room microphone and speaker. So that just plug everything in there to the presentation and whatnot for the main speaker. I would set up my camera one on our DSLR camera here through the moderator PC. And I would also set up an iPhone here for camera two that would face the attendees essentially. And so that anybody who's asking the questions from the press pool, they can see who's actually asking that and actually might be able to pick that up. And since it was on this mobile tripod, we could just move it, swivel it around and move it around at the around the room to get better coverage and actually see how it all worked out. So what do we get through this? Well, obviously it took some getting used to. Adaptability is certainly not a strong suit when it comes to Japanese university administrative folks. But as soon as it works out for everybody starts using it, which is great. The reception from both the researchers and the press were pretty good initially, obviously. And in fact, one of the best advantages was that it had a wider reach. We had call-ins from reporters that weren't official members of the press of that Kyoto University press pool that only had offices in Tokyo, or more local outlets from smaller prefectures and regions would be able to join and call into these press conferences at Kyoto University. And so it was a very decent new people coming in, and we were able to network really well with some local press. However, looking at the hybrid, doing it in person would be better to facilitate discussions and talks, obviously. I think that's something we all can agree on in general. Okay, case study number 2, Nerd Night Kansai. So this is a little social group that I was doing, that was organizing during my time in Kyoto University. It's basically this casual event where people can share a drink and listen to nerdy talks. We usually have it at a cafe or a bar, and we've had 2 to 3 speakers and give them 20 minutes to talk about their nerdy passion, whether it be tabletop gaming or cell biology or acrobatic yoga, what have you. And it was a great fun time for a lot of people. In fact, there's one Nerd Night Kansai way back when. There's me, I'm organizer Katie and Aga, and this character right here is Amanda, as people are familiar with, who was the organizer for Nerd Night Tokyo as well. We miss her very much. Yeah, so the event itself, has its origins in the US, and we would do it every 2 to 3 months. And it has despite being starting in the US, it has a significant presence in Japan. There's big ones probably in Tokyo, Kansai that I was running, and then recently Kyushu that I started, and Okinawa is one that's also happening as well. So Nerd Night Kansai, we used to do it all in person in Osaka or Kyoto, and then we moved to doing online. On April 26th of 2020, that was our first online event. This was after a couple of delays. I think this event we initially had planned for February, but we delayed it a couple of times to get it April 26th here. And we went up to actually Nerd Night Kansai number 20 as our latest one that we did online as well. We never unfortunately moved to do in-person or hybrid as of yet. But our general setup, we tried to keep it as simple as possible. We would use Zoom and provide the link to people who wanted to join. But then at the same time, that Zoom conversation would be streamed to YouTube. Zoom had a system where you could just stream that to YouTube. So we had our YouTube channel, so people can join up directly into the Zoom call, or watch us on YouTube Live at the same time, and we would take questions from people in the audience on Zoom, or directly from like the chat of the YouTube live stream. I think it turned out pretty well initially. One of the big things we were able to do is that since we were all doing it online anyway, the organizers for Nerd Night Tokyo, Kansai, and Okinawa, got together, and we thought we'd do this all Japan edition of Nerd Night. We'll bring together, we would each provide a speaker to join us, and that turned out, it was a really awesome event. Turned out really well. Lots of great reception coming in that, and that was also primarily using Zoom and then live streamed to YouTube as well. Turned out really nice. These are all available online, by the way, if you want to go check it out. Unfortunately, while our initial turnout was good, attendance just gradually declined. And it's not at the end of the time, even though we were able to get speakers from, not just around Japan, but from, overseas even, that heat, that momentum, unfortunately kind of died off. We didn't get a lot. We never recovered from the peak that we had at our initial our initial event. Also, financing a Zoom account became a little bit of an issue, just because we needed to get a paid account, and we had an operating budget initially, but we don't do this to make money, so it started to get a little bit of a hassle just having to maintain a Zoom account like that. And we would try to collect ticket prices for events in person, but since we stopped doing that, just trouble getting the operating budget through is unfortunate. And if I stayed in Kansai, we would have done it, probably moved to in person, but I moved down here, and I missed it, so I started Nerd Night Kyushu, and this is now our first event was actually back in March 20th, and it was an in-person event with trying to maintain proper COVID protocols, people wearing masks and whatnot. And our next event actually this Sunday night is going to be happening this here in this quaint craft beer shop called the Dancing Penguin. So we're really excited. Had a pretty good reception the first time, so we'll see what the turnout looks like next, and hopefully we can maintain that momentum going forward. So if you're ever in Kansai, please, not Kansai, if you're ever down here in Fukuoka, please check us out. Okay, let's talk about the third and final case study here, the Fukuoka Engineer Café. So the Fukuoka Engineer Café is this, very nice, opened in 2019, backed by the Fukuoka government as kind of a project to make, Fukuoka an engineer and startup friendly city. Located in this, it's this co-working space, it's a maker space, it's a hacker space, like an event space, located in this beautiful red brick building. It's the old Nippon Life, it's a life insurance company, Kyushu office, and it's designated as an important cultural property and is located in the middle of Tenji, which is kind of the busy downtown district here in Fukuoka. So it's a very well maintained building. It's very beautiful, and that's what the inside kind of looks like. This is just on the first floor. Downstairs they have things like 3D printers. They have laser cutters. It's essentially, it's a maker space. The people who can come and try to work on projects, work on different kinds of, collaborative teams that they want to make there, or even get advice from, some of the experts there about certain types of, whatever they want to do, centered around engineering, obviously, and mostly computer science. One of the community managers of the Fukuoka Engineer Cafe, there are quite a few, is my friend here, Laurie Griffiths, who's he started into Engineer Cafe right at the very beginning, with the express purpose of supporting engineers at the cafe, coming into the cafe and interested in what they do. And being what the nature of Engineer Cafe as it is, any kind of event that was going to be held there had the intention of already being both online, either only online or hybrid. I think they're mostly thinking to do hybrid because if people are coming, it would all have to be online. So as by the point when Engineer Cafe was founded in August of 2019, the online events in Engineer Cafe was already happening most of the time. And obviously when COVID ran around, all those hybrid events became exclusively online. And but they were already ready and prepped for this kind of thing. They had probably some of the best equipment and setup you can have for a event space like this. They had they've had this nice audio mixer which would pipe in wireless mics that from the that pipe in sound into the speakers of the event hall, that would get transferred into, that would get set up through the stream and onto either the Zoom meeting or on YouTube Live, a 360-degree camera where you can, where they'll set it up so you can see the audience in the case of a hybrid event, and the Stream Deck that makes it all happen, that you can, adjust camera angles and move around, just, cater what kind of stream the viewer is looking at. This is kind of what it looks like a little bit. So, they had this, they had a camera that would point to a speaker that would all get piped in through the Stream Deck into the PC and outputted here like this onto YouTube Live like this. And you can't see it, but behind the monitor here would be the, oh wait, you can see a little top right there. There's the 360 camera right there at the top of that monitor, which you can use to look at this. And Lori, the community manager of of this place, has been doing just all sorts of events with that kind of setup, whether it be, just standard computer science entry level classes that people learn how to do. People learn how to do different kinds of codings, whether it be for amateurs to children to people just starting up and learning, to like VR, VR work events, like programmers coming in to collaborate with making VR games and VR music stuff. Uh, it's actually quite fascinating, and in fact, you can actually see me and the whole setup in action if you want on their YouTube page. If you just type in Fukuoka Engineering Cafe in the YouTube, obviously. But yeah, I did a talk a couple of weeks ago on science communication. There's the stream one where it's just me walking around here and with the with my slides popping up, or you can go to the 360 camera version and just look around. You in fact use your phone to just kind of look around the entire room and just see the different engineers listening to my talk, having their eyes glaze over as they usually do. Honestly, this is probably the gold standard when it comes to meetings, either online or hybrid. They already had initially the setup to do it. That was their intention. And they had the necessary expertise and equipment, and they're easy to transition to just online only. So they already had a good forward thinking in mind and then the necessary equipment to already do it. So absolutely incredible. If you're ever in Fukuoka, definitely check out Engineer Cafe. They're really nice folks to get to know. So yeah, in conclusion, times are weird. They're time consuming. They're certainly chaotic, but no need to panic. Doing things online, doing meetings or events online, depending on what you do, can make things better or make things worse, or usually an up and down. But I do think like this hybrid setup is like the future. I don't think we're ever going to go back to only in-person meetings anymore. I think everybody has the equipment already and the setup, so I think hybrid is what's going to go up. But obviously you need to have the right setup and the knowledge to work at, and you need to be adaptable for whatever new or strange stuff comes your way. All right, and that is it.